Bitcoin almost at $34,000 again. But Dan Roberts, according to an analyst at JPMorgan Chase, we may look back, I don't know how long, not too long from now, and say, what a bargain at 34,000. What's going on?
Well, Adam, this is a note from JPM strategist out today that, of course, is capturing a lot of attention. And, overall, you're seeing a lot of bullish notes on what the price could do or couldn't do. My first caveat I'd give everyone that I always say is no one knows what's going to happen with the price of Bitcoin next. But this note from JPMorgan that, of course, is exciting people who are invested in the crypto space just says that if Bitcoin were to prove out its thesis as digital gold, and if it were to reach the same levels of institutional investment that gold has, if its market cap rose to the point where it would match gold, then it would translate to a price for Bitcoin of $146,000 per coin. Now, of course, that would be quite a run from what it's at right now, which is around $33,000 per coin. Of course, it is recently in the last 2 weeks hitting record highs almost every day. But guys, I want to focus here on what JPM says, which is that it ends that call by saying that JP Morgan doesn't think that is likely. Now, of course, across the internet today, you see media and websites running with the headline that JPM says Bitcoin could get to 146,000. Fine, but that's if the market cap were to balloon and inflate to the point where it matches gold. And I think the reason this is important is because those who have said for years that it's digital gold tout its use as a store of value, as a hedge against inflation. And of course, the skeptics have always said, well, it's not a real currency. You can't use it to buy things. People don't seem to care about that anymore. They just see it as an investment. But again, it would have to really rise big in order to get to those levels. That's not to say that the price won't continue to go up in 2021 since the pandemic and kind of the situation of the pandemic and the economic impact of the pandemic has helped Bitcoin.
Dan, there was a lot of if there that you were throwing in. And when you take into account, so many things need to happen, is what I'm saying there, to get to 146,000. But when we take into account maybe the next year or two, what makes this one a little bit different, what we're seeing now, the rally of Bitcoin compared to what we saw in 2017, is this institutional interest, right? You and I have talked about that a bunch of times in the past. How much do you think that's going to help with Bitcoin's volatility? Because I think that's really the biggest question here going forward.
Well, it's always been extremely volatile. And in fact, in the last 24 hours, I think we talked yesterday at this time about how yesterday morning it dipped like 4%. So anyone who's investing in cryptocurrencies has to expect and be okay with that. It's going to be volatile no matter what. It always has been. Now, that said, because so many institutions and Wall Street firms have kind of rushed in, and because their plan is to hold on to it and treat it like digital gold, and they're not likely about to sell and dump it, the amount of supply that's actually circulating and available to buy and trade is much smaller. And as a result, that should help the price continue to go up because in theory, a smaller amount circulating for buying and trading makes it even more appealing. But that also means it's going to be more volatile. That means that someone who jumps in now at record highs might be likely to dump in 4 more days if it rises again, right? So you're going to see more volatility, but overall, it might be just the same volatility that people who've been invested in crypto for 8 years have become used to. Now, I think also to answer your question, what's going to be really interesting in the next year or two, what happens when the pandemic is over, right? Now, of course, over is up for debate. There will come a time where the vaccine is widely distributed and some people return to the office, but a lot of people still don't. A lot of people continue to work remotely. Well, what about maybe 16 months from now when it's really over, we hope, and we can sort of agree that it's over? Will Bitcoin's big ride come to a halt, especially because so much of the price surge in the last 8 months or so has been thanks to the effects of the pandemic, thanks to the idea that, when governments are printing money and giving out stimulus checks, that helps Bitcoin's digital gold appeal. And it helps the idea that it's a hedge against inflation. What happens when the pandemic is over? Does Bitcoin become less appealing? And do a lot of people who bought it a year before dump it?